Hello there, welcome back to the Bleeding Truth. I'm Sally McNally, the Irish midwife.
And I'm Bridget, Sally's daughter.
Well, I'm just back from Ireland and I got to hang out with my five sisters and their families. And I love it. Every minute is so precious. I just try to soak them all in. But we did tiny little recordings with each one just to kind of introduce them to you because they're so precious to me. I want to share them with you. So we make little bonus episodes with my sisters.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Super cute. So if you guys are listening, please make sure to give us a like and subscribe. If you're listening on Apple, it really helps if you can give us a review. And that will be, it before we get into it. Thank you guys.
Yeah. But the first sister that we recorded with is Philomena. We call her Phil. And she's the oldest sister and I'm the youngest. So we have like not a huge gap between us, but gaps in ways that come from like natural family stuff. Like she had to fight for everything when she was a young teenager, to wear certain clothes, to go to the discos, to do
She's
things
the
that
first one. Yeah.
she broke all of the barriers and the boundaries, and then of course made it easier for the rest of us. When I got to want to go to the discos and everything, I just
Five
got to do
sisters
it.
later.
Five sisters later, yeah, I just got to go and do all of this stuff with them. And sometimes I would get to hang out with them, doing things that I probably shouldn't be doing. Like in Ireland growing up, 18 is the age that you can drink.
Mm.
So sometimes they'd be going to the bars and I'd get to go with them. And so I was learning things at an earlier age than say my sister Phil. She had to like break the mold and ask, and you know um, and she's very strong, very wise, and very religious. Of all of us, she's probably got that real communication with her religion, that's real, true, and really, really devout. And I really respect that about her. I was the opposite. I was probably the little heathen in the family. Uh, but
Still are.
but she was always very kind to me and very great that you could, talk to her. But she always had this great way of bringing God into the situation, and she sounded like my mother. Often she would say, "Please God" and "Holy God" and "Thank God," that it was like it was all God was always around her, and it's still the same. It's always she's very, very nice. So I remember one story. I always saw her like this, holy person that could never do anything wrong. And uh, I was in town with my dad once, and he was parked in this area, and he was talking to some of his friends. He drove a taxi in town. So he met some of his taxi buddies, and it was like the main street in Dublin, O'Connell
Mm.
Street.
Hmm.
And so I was standing looking up at this building and I realized, oh, that's the restaurant where my sisters work. They were, their first job working in this restaurant.
Hmm.
I can't remember the name of it, but I was looking at it, I was thinking, oh, yeah, that's it. Because we used to go in there for chips, which are
Mm.
French fries in Ireland. Lovely,
Yeah.
salty chips. But I look up, and up there at the window, there's Philomena, my big sister, who can never do anything wrong. Beautiful, wonderful Phil, smoking a cigarette. Like, there she is, smoking a cigarette, and I'm like, oh, I was very young and I was like, how can this be? Oh my God, how can this be? And I saw, of course, I had to like stay quiet. I don't know what was going on. My dad, then we got in the car, we went home, and I've got this secret now. What am I going to do with this secret? And so I told some of the other sisters, and they were like, what? What? how could this be? And poor Phil, her
That's so
secret
funny.
was out. When she came home, we all went into the room, in one of the bedrooms. And I remember saying, I saw you smoking in the window. And she was like, what? She was like incredulous. How could that be? And but I
You're
believe,
following her.
I believe she right away admitted it. Yes, that was me smoking. And it was so interesting, you know. It was like oh, wow, the world is open out there to all of us, because it was like such like
The
to
day
do a
Sally got
thing.
corrupted. I'm just kidding.
In a way, you kind of like opened something, because we my parents, neither of my parents smoked or drank.
Which is rare in that era.
Yeah,
Really rare.
right. So but then of course, you know, you do go out into the world and you do get corrupted and stuff, and so you know, after a while, it all trickled down until the end. All of us were smoking, and all of us drank. But I remember I don't think, who was it that taught me how to smoke? I can't remember. There was a few of them there. We were in the bathroom upstairs. There was a little window that we could
I know
open.
the window.
I know, I think I was like 11. And they were saying, inhale it, Sally, you have to inhale. And I'd take a puff and I'd fill my mouth up like this, and I'd cough it out. And
Oh
they'd say,
God.
you're not doing it right. And they'd show me, they would inhale it, and they'd say, see the way it's gone? And then, so
This is incriminating.
it is. There was a few of my sisters there teaching me how to do it. And I remember then getting it, and I had many years of love affair with smoking, because of course the younger you are, the more ingrained it is. And it took
Yeah.
me quite a while to give up smoking.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, you know, that my big sister taught me how to smoke, but I would have learned from my friends, you know. But
Yeah.
smoking was an interesting thing growing
It's so
up.
interesting to me that neither your parents did. Like,
Right,
ever. Ever?
right.
Or like,
Well,
they stopped at some point.
my mother smoked like a chimney when she was younger.
Like a
And
chimney. That's a new one.
yeah, but she gave up the cigarettes for a special reason. I can't remember, but I'll have to ask one of the sisters. But she did give them up. Yeah, little darling. And
Wow.
and a few of my sisters have stopped smoking, and I've given them up for years, like long time,
Yeah.
25, 26 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know that until I mean, I knew, but I don't remember when I learned that you used to.
Right.
But,
I know,
yeah.
it seems weird because I'm a yogi and
Yeah.
I'm always talking about breathing.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate the breath now.
You appreciate it now, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. My generation is the jewels,
Yeah. But
which
Phil
is not better.
oh yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Phil was wonderful big sister, and she became a civil servant. She eventually started working with special education, helping, you know, special education children, and she had 3 wonderful children of her own, and yeah, she's got grandchildren and lovely life.
Aw.
Yeah. So I love my sister Phil.
Yeah, so let's get into that clip with her. I'm excited to listen to it as well.
Yeah, let's have a listen. She tells a little story, and you can just imagine the 6 of us, you know, and the way it would be. Today, I was just going to ask you to tell us a story about our childhood or your childhood, or something that comes up in your mind when you think about it.
I suppose I often chat to my best pal.
Yeah.
We compare childhoods.
Yeah.
And she always thinks mine is wonderful. I always think hers is wonderful, and that sort of thing. And we kind of tell each other different stories about meal times, and you know, like there was never a menu. You just took what was on the table and ate it.
Yeah.
And so when Sally asked me to do this, there was one story that kind of stuck in my mind. All right. an uncle had been home from Australia, Con. I don't know if
Oh.
Sally would even remember him.
He was a baby.
You were a baby. You would have been small baby, like
Yeah. Oh.
that kind.
Yeah.
And he decided to bring us all to the zoo, which was a big, big day out. Now,
Yeah.
in those days, the zoo, the animals were fairly caged and all that sort of thing, not like the modern zoos where they have a bit more freedom.
Yeah.
But there were elephants, and you could have an elephant ride.
Oh my God.
And our next in the family to me, Ronnie, was mad keen. She couldn't wait. But when I saw the elephant, the size of the elephant, I ran so fast. I couldn't face
This is great stuff.
going near the elephant. And it still sticks. It comes out every so often. Just the size of the elephant. It was so big. And the whole idea of getting right up on top of his back, no, it wasn't for me.
That's great.
But they got a great kick out of Phil wouldn't get on the elephant. So there you are. That was the elephant in the room.
But I would never think of you as being full of fear of anything, because you being my big sister, you always seemed like in charge of things, and you always seem to know the right thing to do. And
it's lovely to think of me like that, Sally, because there's certain aspects of my life I am terrified about, like going to the dentist. Dear Lord God, they were talking about when they were telling me about the kind of treatment that I needed for gum disease. Just talking about it was they had to give me Valium the first 2 visits. And after that, now I've got sense now and I can cope. But it's just sometimes. Yes, somebody's calling us.
Somebody's calling us. We're here, kitten.
We're in.
Having a family shot of the 6 of us together.
We have to go for a
we
photograph.
have to go for a photograph. We
But
have
we'll
a
be
photo
back.
shoot, if it's okay.
We'll come back. Hold that
Hold
thought.
that thought.
We're back. Hello again. And Phil, we just went and got some family pictures down in the garden.
Because the 6 of us aren't together that often, so it was nice that we could.
And we'll post one of those pictures along with this podcast.
We'll edit them first because they're a bit mad.
They were mad.
But I was going to tell you the other element to that story about the Uncle Con home from Australia. While they were that visit, it must have been very special for Daddy because he was away a long time. And I only ever remember him coming back once more. And he brought myself and Ronnie anyway, were there into town. He bought us dolls.
Yes.
And these dolls were like a porcelain doll. They were lovely. They were really nice dolls.
Yeah.
And I was running with my dolly.
Oh no.
And Lula fell on top of said dolly and she was broken.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But my Uncle Con took her and said, we have to bring her to the dolls hospital. Mm-hmm. Never saw her again. She's still in the hospital.
She never got out of the hospital. Oh, Phil.
Yeah, but there's lots of times with like Daddy was gas for telling us all kinds of stories, and like we had nobody to go by, only him, because he was the only member of his family left in Ireland. Yes. All his brothers and sisters were away. He'd add yards to any story.
Yeah, he was great. And then, Phil, something I remember, when we moved into the new house, we moved.
Oh, in Raheny? Yeah. Oh, yes.
And when you were coming through the door.
God, yes. Well, that would be a traumatic incident.
Things,
My darling parents had managed to get themselves together to move from a 2-bedroom house to a 3-bedroom house, much bigger house, from Fairview to Raheny, and the excitement was great, and all the stuff was packed into the van, and we pulled up, and the car was stuffed with stuff as well. But there was a radio, like a battery operated radio, and I was carrying that in. It wasn't heavy or anything like that. It was just that we all had something in our hands carrying it into the new house. And I don't know how much different the steps were at the front of the new door than the old door, but Philly decided to trip and split her knee on the step. And I thought it was only a bump, but when I bent my knee up to look, I could see the bone inside. I had actually split it.
Yes, I remember. We were so excited. We kept saying to you, bend your knee, because then we
could see the bone. Yes,
it was very exciting. Poor baby.
But anyway, poor Mammy. She'd nothing like to at hand. Everything was packed in boxes all over different rooms. So all she had was a clean hanky, like a cloth handkerchief, like we didn't have tissues then, it was a cloth handkerchief. And she wrapped that around my knee. And then I straightened my leg.
Yeah.
So this was stuck inside in the wound. My poor father, poor daddy, he had to bring me, and he decided to bring Ronnie and Mary as well. For some reason, Mammy said, take them, because she knew they'd go wild without him around. In the new house, she didn't have her bearings or whatever, and she thought she'd manage the twins and yourself easier. So we went to the hospital, and we went to the doctor first. The GP was the same GP, even though we were in a new house. And he just took one look and he said, keep going to the hospital. So went to the hospital, and they had to, the hardest part was taking the hanky out of the wound. Eventually they stitched it, they anaesthetised it, and I think about 20 stitches in it, and a cast for I think about 3 weeks. Yeah. But my memory of the hospital, I was lying on some kind of a trolley thing, and Daddy was near around, and like there was no mobile phones when I think about it or anything like that. Then he couldn't ring Mammy and update her what was going on, and I looked every so often. The corridor was kind of at an angle to my head, and I'd see this wheelchair whizzing past one way and then whizzing past the other way. Ronnie and Mary taking turns and whizzing each other up and down the corridor. Eventually the knee healed, and thankfully the bone wasn't damaged or anything, even though
right.
But,
it was a really bad wound.
And
that's your bleeding truth.
That's my bleeding truth. There was a lot of bleeding blood. There you go. So
thanks a million. That was a great story.
Good. Actually, you reminded me of that.
Yeah.
That was probably a better story than the elephant one. I was 11 actually when that happened. Yeah.
Well, you're a great big sister, and I love you.
You're not a bad little sister yourself.
I
love you too.
Bye. So thanks again for listening. We really appreciate it. And if you like what we're doing, give us a bit of a review on Apple. That would help us so much. And if you come across a subscribe button, press the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything.